Well, it's not going to be anti-dramatic here, but yes, we won! Woo! Stay tuned for an extra special edition of... And before I get to that, may I remind you that we are... Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here. Well, welcome back to an extra special edition of the Calgary Stampeders this month, playoff edition. And as you can tell with my gear here, we won. Man, we won the Grey Cup. And man, it was so much sweeter to win it this year compared to, I got to experience it live in Vancouver 4 years ago, but it was much sweeter this year just because of the heartbreak from losing in overtime in 2016, and the last 4 minutes we lost it in the snow there in Ottawa last year in 2017, and Calgary was so much more dominant in the regular season and lost to a team that was either just under 500 or 500, but this year, we did it, and even better, it was in Edmonton. We got to celebrate the Grey Cup win in Edmonton, which, man, that just made it so much sweeter. And before you say I'm gloating too much and saying I'm too proud of Calgary and Albertan, remember the Edmonton Eskimos celebrated in our house at McMahon Stadium in 1975 and 1993, so the Calgary Stampeders were finally due to win one in their house, and man, it was so much sweeter. And we definitely got a little dusted there at the end of the game, and man, this is their 8th championship that the Calgary Stampeders have won, and I've been around for 6 of them, and this was definitely the sweetest one here. But before I get too on about how big this win and how much it means to me, we still need to recap how we got to this point where this has happened here. If you remember, if you go back to my Calgary Stampeders this month, where I recapped the November segment, which there was only that one game there, and the Calgary Stampeders had to win that game if they were wanting to have that bye week and host the Western Final, and only need to win one game to get to the Grey Cup. And you know what? They responded big time and beat the BC Lions, and they got their bye to the Western Final here. So in the meantime, Calgary got a week off and watched the Western semi-final. Well, I'm not saying the whole team watched the Western semi-final all together here, but it was either going to be the Winnipeg Blue Bombers or the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and ultimately the Winnipeg Blue Bombers grinded out a win with a 23-18 victory against the Saskatchewan Roughriders in Saskatchewan in the cold there, which definitely, it was either going to be a tough opponent either way for the Calgary Stampeders, as either we were going to face the Saskatchewan Roughriders, were beating Calgary 2 of the 3 times in the regular season and have Riderville invade our house, or play Winnipeg, who most recently beat Calgary in that funk they were in October, and playing a team that was extra hungry and motivated, as they haven't won the Grey Cup since 1990 here. So ultimately, the Calgary Stampeders drew the Winnipeg Blue Bombers there, and if you go back to my Western Final preview video, this was a very rare matchup that the Calgary Stampeders played the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the playoffs there, because it was the first time for a non-Grey Cup, because the Winnipeg Blue Bombers spent a lot of time in the Eastern Division there, that the last two times that Calgary played Winnipeg in the playoffs was for the Grey Cup, and they won in 1992 and 2001, but this was the first time that Calgary played Winnipeg in the playoffs in a non-Grey Cup since 1982, and actually this was the first time that the Calgary Stampeders played the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at home in the Western Final since 1945, before the modern era, and the first year that the Stampeders, as we are right now, it was a franchise. So it was definitely a very rare matchup, but it was definitely a tough game here. I mean, and then if you're a CFL fan and kind of moaning and thinking, oh man, the Stampeders are in the Western Final again. Well, actually, you might have a right to moan about that, because this was the 7th straight year that the Calgary Stampeders, and 10 of the last 11 that they were in the Western Final here. The only year that they weren't in the Western Final since 2008, when John Huffnagel came here, was in 2011. They lost the Edmonton Eskimos in the Western semifinal on the road there. And then when it comes to records in the Western Final here, Calgary is 1-2 on the road in the Western Final, where they were on the road in 2009, 12, and 15, and the only year that they won was in 2012 against the BC Lions there. They lost to Saskatchewan in 2009 and lost to Edmonton in 2015. But at home, they have a little better record. They were 5-2. This is since 2008 in Western Finals. When they were at home for the Western Final, they hosted it in 2008, 2010, 2013 to 14, and then they hosted 2016, 17, 18 here. The losses came in 2010 and 2013, both to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Calgary won those other years. So as I can say, you can see my Western Final preview on how rare this matchup was, playing the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here, and maybe with more stability in the East, and Winnipeg not having to move back and forth to balance out the divisions here. Apparently, the Atlantic Gunners might be joining the league here in a couple of years. We'll have more Calgary and Winnipeg matchups in the Western Final or Western Semifinal, because I always looked at Winnipeg being a Western team, and the longitudinal center of Canada is still east of Winnipeg. It's about a half an hour drive. I haven't driven to that landmark, but I know it's out there. So you're still in the west part of the country, and Winnipeg belongs in the west. So I could sum up with this game is that this is now going to sum up the game. I'll give a synopsis of it, since this is a special edition, episode 7 of my Calgary Stampeders this month. It was a slow first quarter defensive battle, and Calgary gained touchdowns at the right time here. That's how I sum up this Western Final here. Eerily, this game, the Western Final, felt similar to last year when we took on the Edmonton Eskimos then, that the Calgary Stampeders got off to a very slow start and got behind in the first quarter here, but the only difference is that Calgary had 2 touchdowns scored against them, against the Edmonton Eskimos. Here, Winnipeg had a 6-0 lead, 2 field goals by Justin Medlock here, including a 57-yarder to put Winnipeg on the board there. It was definitely interesting to see him lining up for the field goal past the 55-yard mark, and he's still able to got that through for 57-yarder. Apparently, that's an all-time record, and I think they broke it up into record and Grey Cup or different records. So I think there was a 62-yard field goal that happened in the Grey Cup. But they're saying that the 57-yarder that Justin Medlock kicked was a record. So it was 6-0 for Winnipeg after the first quarter, and the offense definitely looked a little sluggish for the Stampeders here, but they did respond back in the second quarter here with 2 touchdowns, both from Eric Rogers, and it's always a beautiful day in the neighborhood when Eric Rogers catches a touchdown, but even more beautiful when it's 2 of them. So Calgary answered back in the second quarter and took a 14-0 to 6 lead going into the locker room. Still, I'd rather be up than down at the half when it comes to a playoff game, but felt like I wasn't out of the woods yet. The third quarter was definitely a very tough defensive battle here. Is that defense battle? Calgary concedes a safety for field position, and Calgary did score, or I should say Winnipeg did score a field goal too. So both giving up a safety for field position, and Winnipeg scored another field goal, made it 14-11 for Calgary going into the fourth quarter here, and definitely made me feel more uncomfortable because personally, when I have a ticket to the Grey Cup and everything all on the line there, the Western Final just feels just like more than another game here, and this personally was my 6th Grey Cup in all 6 years I've had a ticket to the Grey Cup. The Stampeders were in the Western Final, so I got that familiar, uncomfortable feeling as a fan again. Going into the fourth quarter, and once again, it was another defensive struggle here. It went back and forth. I mean, nobody seemed to break through, but it wasn't until just under 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter that the Calgary Stampeders were moving the ball well, going into Winnipeg territory, and ultimately, Eric Rogers, once again, another beautiful day in the neighborhood, caught a touchdown pass, third of the game, to take a 21-11 lead. And, it's definitely a big game. I don't know if you can call that a hat trick in football, but he had 3 touchdown catches, so definitely big. Eric Rogers, I mean, the little time he's played with Calgary in 2014-15, and then tried his luck in the NFL and had a knee injury, but came back this year. He's definitely showed up in the playoffs every time, so thank you, Eric Rogers, for a big Western Final here. And then Rob Maver kicked another single here to give Calgary an 11-point lead here, under 3 minutes to go in the third quarter, or fourth quarter here. Eventually, with the lead and 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter here, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were forced to have to score twice if they were planning on making the trip up to Edmonton there. And then eventually, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, with an 11-point deficit, they knew they had to get a field goal and then get a touchdown with a 2-point conversion just to tie it. So with less than a minute to go there, Winnipeg was marching down the field and got in the Calgary territory enough where they decided to go for the field goal. Got the field goal to make it 22-14 there. And then, as you know, what was coming is the onside kick after the field goal there, and Winnipeg attempted the onside kick with less than a minute left to try to get the ball again and maybe march it down and get the touchdown, but no prevailed as Alex Singleton recovered the onside kick, and that essentially sealed it for the Calgary Stampeders as they won the game 22-14, making their third straight trip to the Grey Cup. Actually, it was a pretty clean game. There was only one turnover on both sides, and it was a Don Jackson fumble early in the third quarter, and Calgary just got away with a field goal there and against them. And then only injury that it looked pretty serious is Romar Morris, who was in the game for returns. He literally was carried off the field, and if you follow Mark Steven on his Facebook page, he gives great insights and updates throughout the season there. He didn't sound very optimistic that Romar Morris will be available for 2019. So we got to wonder how serious it is. And there was actually some storylines at the end of this game, as apparently Dave Dickinson was caught saying expletives about Canadians to Coach Mike O'Shea. He is a Canadian, but then Mike O'Shea turned around and laughed it off and said, well, I'm damn proud to be an effing Canadian. So, that was just a little storyline there. Heat of the moment there, but, it was a hard-fought battle. Winnipeg definitely played a great game and definitely just couldn't finish off any drives against the powerful Stampeders defense and got timely offense here. So how the numbers broke down here for key players here. Bo was 17 for 31 with 214 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then Matt Nichols, the quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, he he was 15 for 32 for 156 yards, and so he definitely looked ordinary this game, but Calgary also had a stacked defense. When it comes to running back, well, Don Jackson actually outran Andrew Harris in this game. Don Jackson, 14 carries for 83 yards, while Andrew Harris had 13 carries for 71 yards here. And then when it comes to receiver, well, obviously Eric Rogers stood out with the 3 touchdowns, but actually the ball was spread around pretty well by Bo here. I mean, Rogers led the way with 6 catches, 61 yards, 3 touchdowns. Richardson Danny, a guy that Calgary got late in the draft this past year and played for the Colts, that the team's actually high on him for his future. He had 3 catches for 44 yards and made a few clutch catches there. Markeith Ambles, he's a guy that definitely is, stepped up with all the injuries that Calgary's had. 3 catches, 41 yards. Chris Matthews, the nice veteran pickup once again to fill up the receiving core. 3 catches, 39 yards, and then Lamar Durant had 2 catches for 29 yards, but I remember he had that 1 catch that was huge on second down to set that short field late in the fourth quarter that eventually led to the Eric Rogers 3rd touchdown. And then the only receiver that really stood out for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers was Darvin Adams. He had 5 catches for 64 yards here. Matt Nichols wasn't able to get much air attack in this game as he had going down the stretch here. So on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, Alex Singleton, 7 tackles, and Jagger Davis, he seems to love playing the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at home because he had another monster game. Not as good as the one in the regular season, but it was up here. He had 4 tackles and 2 sacks, so Jagger Davis, he's definitely a tough guy to play against. So, as I mentioned, the Calgary Stampeders were off to their 3rd straight Grey Cup, and they'll have to find out what they knew coming into this game, but Calgary was either going to be facing the Ottawa RedBlacks, team to seek revenge from 2 years ago, or the Hamilton Tiger Cats, the team that they last beat for the Grey Cup in 2014, that had a little more hairy finish there, where Brandon Banks had a punt return for a touchdown that got called back on a illegal block, and eventually my team won it for a close one in Vancouver. But it was the Ottawa RedBlacks that destroyed the Hamilton Tiger Cats 46-27. That was early in the Eastern Final. So for the 2nd time in 3 years, the Grey Cup will feature the Calgary Stampeders and the Ottawa RedBlacks, and Calgary was definitely out to seek some revenge and right some wrongs from 2 years ago. So now this sets up the stage for the 106th Grey Cup in Edmonton. It was in the Calgary Stampeders and the Ottawa RedBlacks. I'll break down the numbers here for the Grey Cup, and then you can also see my review video for on the road to the Grey Cup. But this was the 3rd straight year that Calgary was in the Grey Cup, 17th overall. Calgary coming in was 7-9. Last win 2014 against Hamilton and Vancouver. Ottawa, you can break down numbers in a few different ways. I mean, this was the 3rd time in 4 years the Ottawa RedBlacks have been to the Grey Cup, and only their 5th year in existence. The RedBlacks are 1-1 in Grey Cups, where they lost in 2015 against Edmonton in Winnipeg, and then they beat my Stampeders the next year, 2016, in overtime in Toronto. But then when you come to look at the Ottawa Roughriders, Ottawa football history, they were 9-16 in Grey Cups. So as mentioned, Ottawa last won the Grey Cup in 2016 against Calgary here. When it comes to Calgary and Ottawa playing each other for the Grey Cup, this is the 4th time that these 2 cities have faced each other for the Grey Cup. Calgary winning the first one in 1948 for their first Grey Cup in franchise history. And then 20 years later, in 1968, the Ottawa Roughriders seek some revenge and won the Grey Cup then. And then the 2016, the throwing overtime, but heartbreak for me in 2016. So this could be, well, as you already know from the opening here, but this was to even up the numbers historically here. But as I say, Calgary was seeking revenge and redemption and all the heartbreaks from the last couple of years, and eventually it came to be. But both teams coming into the Grey Cup were complaining about the field was a little icy and a little rough here, and I mean, I guess they could have covered up the field or when it wasn't in use here, but I guess that's what happens when you play late November outside in Canada here, that things like that could happen. The weather could play a role. I mean, last year, 2017 for our 5th Grey Cup, it was snowing during the game, but definitely made it tricky for both sides to decide what footwear to wear, but I guess that's part of the game. I mean, it's better than taking the NFL route and then having it in Montreal and Vancouver because it's always inside every year, but it's nice to still move it around, but maybe the league can still learn what they could do with the field so it doesn't become as much of a factor any. But anyway, both teams had to play on said field here. So before the opening kickoff, the Red Claws performed the pregame show. This was kind of their way to make up because of the concert series that they had, the TSN Thursday Night Football here. The Red Claws were supposed to perform in Winnipeg against Edmonton week 1, and that game had, lightning delays and couldn't get to play at all. So that was one way to make up for it, but the Long Live the Night was definitely performed, and excuse me, and then national anthem sung by country music star Brett Kissel. So and they had the snowbirds coming over the stadium here, so that can paint you the picture leading into the game here. So now on to the game, as most of the scoring actually happened in the first half, and Calgary defense definitely played strong overall and capitalized and took the ball away, especially in the second half here. So how it started off here is that the Calgary Stampeders struck first. Don Jackson had a 21-yard touchdown reception here to put Calgary up 7-0 after the first quarter here, and Calgary looked like they had the jump and was the better team coming into this game. Calgary definitely had more talent overall, and was determined to shake off some demons, especially with the core that's in place here. But the other thing, speaking of the defense here, both teams had an interception here. Jonathan Rose, guy who should have been suspended, was appealing it. He got to play, and fittingly he had a touchdown, or no, not a touchdown, interception in the first half, but Sione Evans also had one in the first quarter, so each team traded interceptions here. And then Ottawa got on the board here in the second quarter, 30-yard field goal from Lewis Ward here. You should actually make note that Lewis Ward actually missed a field goal in the first quarter there, so it could have been a different game possibly if he made that one there. But Ottawa got on the board with a field goal to make it 7-3 here. And then the next drive, right after the field goal, Calgary marched it down the field, and Lamar Durant had a 17-yard touchdown reception to take the 14-3 lead here. So things were still looking good for my Stampeders here. And then for the 5 minutes to go in the second quarter there, Sherrod Baltimore picked off a bow pass and definitely started making things interesting. But then on that drive, when Ottawa got the ball, they fumbled the ball, and Calgary was able to recover that, but be within scoring range in the red zone. But they didn't capitalize on that turnover, but definitely still bailed out the interception there. And then Ottawa actually was able to get on the board here with a touchdown here because they received a punt return here, before the 3-minute warning here. They scored a quick drive here because it was just one pass. Julian Figueroa had a 55-yard touchdown reception. That was the only big play there. This was getting towards the 3-minute warning in the second quarter here, first half. And then they got the 2-point conversion to make it a 14-11 game. So Ottawa definitely was answering back here and wanted to get back in the game here. And after a couple drives here, Ottawa got down to about 20-second mark with 20 seconds left in the second quarter here. and Ottawa was playing the ball here, and you could probably say the play of the game happened here is that Terry Williams received that punt return and returned it back to the house, 97 yards to wind down the second quarter down to 1 second left. It was also the first punt return for a touchdown to happen in the Grey Cup since 1996, and that was a Grey Cup record. So Terry Williams is in Grey Cup history here with a big play there, and that was definitely a big game changer and potential backbreaker for the Ottawa RedBlacks there, because suddenly it was 21-11 for the Calgary Stampeders here, and after the ensuing kickoff, Ottawa was stopped, and just like that, it was 21-11 for the Calgary Stampeders going in the half, and as I was still tentative there, and there were a few fans trolling, Stampeder fans say, "Are you going to hang on this year?" And after I took in the halftime show from Alicia Carr, which I have that video there, I went to go take a pit stop there, and some fans did have to ask me, "How are you feeling this year?" And I said, "Well, after being in Ottawa last year, I'm still tentative, but that punt return for a touchdown definitely helped and showed that maybe things will be different this year." So coming into the second half here, Calgary was up by 10, 21-11 here. Third quarter could be summed up with both teams trading field goals here. I mean, it was definitely a defensive struggle here. Teams make adjustments, and as the game gets later, stakes get higher here. Ottawa had a 41-yard field goal by Lewis Ward, and Rene Paredes had a 34-yard field goal there. And Calgary maintained a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter, up 24-14 here. And then definitely a series of plays here in the fourth quarter, as Ottawa was getting more desperate here, definitely showed that no demons were going to get in the way of the Calgary Stampeders this year. Because early in the fourth quarter here, I mean, it was definitely still a defensive struggle here. I mean, as I said, a lot of scoring happened in the first half here. Calgary was playing the ball away. The returner for the Ottawa RedBlacks, Deontay Spencer, fumbled the punt return. It was a combination of Wynton McManus recovered the fumble, but Riley Jones on special teams made the tackle. And what made that play even better there is that actually, as it turned out, I was sitting around Riley Jones's family. So they were definitely extra happy that he made that play, and because of that tackle and that Wynton McManus fumble recovery, Calgary was able to get the ball in Ottawa territory early, and ultimately on that ensuing drive here, this is the time where special teams players make a name for himself, but the Calgary Stampeders was able to get another field goal for Rene Paredes for 29 yards and gave Calgary a 27-14 lead, going 13-point lead in the fourth quarter here. So I was hoping that all these sequence of plays here, that this will be enough and we'll bring it home this year. Another potential turning point here, though, which came close and came review there. Ottawa was marching the ball down the field there, and it looked like for a sec there they were playing the touchdown song. The Ottawa RedBlacks were celebrating. It looked like maybe they scored a touchdown there, but as all scoring plays and turnovers get reviewed by the command center, I mean, it's captain obvious that the referee's not going to say the command center is going to review it, but this play got reviewed, and upon further review, Greg Olsen didn't quite squeeze that. It would have been one heck of a catch, but Greg Olsen almost had a remarkable touchdown catch that all wasn't, and then eventually it wiped out the touchdown in the end zone. Maybe that probably deflated the Ottawa RedBlacks there, because that was on a first or second down play there. But Ottawa's still deep in Calgary territory. They had the ball at the Calgary 10 there. They were trying to make a pass to Brad Snopley there. All he needed was 2 yards to get the first down and make it first and goal and keep the ball going. But another sign that this was meant to be for Calgary. Jamar Wall was on that play. Brad Snopley couldn't connect, and turnover. So that was another definitely big play there. And then another big play there is that as Calgary was running the clock down and playing it safe here, Calgary, did punt the ball there were a lot of punts back and forth in the fourth quarter here. This happened about 3.5 minutes to go left. Got that went to McManus. He definitely smoked Deontay Spencer on the return there. I mean, it was a beautiful, clean tackle there, but that was definitely another boost for the Calgary Stampeders there, showing that, this is our time here. So Ottawa was driving the ball down the field with 2.5 minutes to go, and Jamar Ball picked up another interception there. And it looked like after the 3-minute warning, this is meant to be this year. And then the next play, there was Greg Ellison, because Ottawa had the ball again. This was down to about a minute to left here. It was another 2-0, but I think Calgary was also playing it safe there, considering when they made the turnover, they were deep in their own end zone, so they didn't want to do anything crazy here, which I understand that's a championship game, but, another punt, and then Ottawa had the ball again. There was one play there that it looked like Greg Ellington had the ball. Trey Robertson was on it, fumbled, but Greg Ellington was able to recover the ball, and Ottawa still had the ball, but then once again, the next play, Trevor Harris came back for a pass, and Trey Robertson, second play in a row, made a big impact, but this time he got the interception there. Second straight play there. And then Calgary once again was deep in their own end zone here, and with less than a minute left here, Calgary was punting, but what Calgary did this time was that instead of going after the punt there, Rob Maver took the ball and tried to run around the end zone to try to kill as much time off, give up the safety, and take the field position. So in that case, the Calgary Stampeders made it a 27-16 game left with about less than 30 seconds left, and it was all said but done. But the Calgary Stampeders were going to win the Grey Cup here, but Ottawa still had 2 plays to make, and after one completed pass that the Ottawa RedBlacks had, they were at the midfield there. Excuse me, the last play of the 106th Grey Cup goes to Junior Turner as he sacks Trevor Harris, and my boys win the Grey Cup, the 106th Grey Cup. Yes, that was sweet, man. 27-16 here. And who got the awards here? Well, Levi Mitchell, for the second time in his career, wins the Grey Cup MVP there. He he wasn't that spectacular compared to 2014, he has been all year. I mean, he did win the MLP award over Jeremiah Mazzoli. I was the only Stampeder that got nominated and won the award for the finalists there, threw over 5,100 yards and 35 touchdowns here. But Levi Mitchell didn't need to be spectacular at this year's Grey Cup to win, because it was a total team effort. And then top Canadian, you could have some debate here, but Lamar Durant ultimately won the top Canadian there, but I guess he scored the one touchdown here. But, the Calgary Stampeders won the Grey Cup. Levi Mitchell had another game, another one to his resume here, and he's definitely solidified himself as one of the top quarterbacks to ever play in the CFL here. I'll get back to Bo here once I go over the numbers here and talk about, possibly the future here and what to expect next year here. But when it comes to numbers here, Bo, he was 24 for 36, threw for 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Actually, of all the Grey Cups that he's played in, this was his lowest passing total. He threw for over 300 yards in the ones in the past year, but I still question his play decisions on the couple interceptions there, but it didn't turn out to be too devastating after the turnovers, because Calgary's defense was able to bail him out. Well, Trevor Harris, this was the first time he was in the Grey Cup as a starter. He was on the 2016 team as a backup to Henry Burrs here. He definitely got manhandled by the Calgary defense, as he was 20 for 38, 280 yards. He got the 1 touchdown, but he threw 3 interceptions. A lot of that came in the second half when they definitely needed him to lead the team. But Trevor Harris was definitely devastated at the end of the game that he couldn't get the job done, but this could be also another learning experience for him, because he's not up there with Bo or Mike Riley in terms of the top quarterbacks in the CFL, but I'm going to say Trevor Harris is definitely in the top of the second tier if you rank quarterbacks in the CFL here, and he's definitely committed to Ottawa. So when it comes to running here, actually Don Jackson, he actually got figured out by the Ottawa defense. He only had 53 yards on 14 carries, and William Powell, I mean, I'd say it's an accomplishment that we kept him under 100 yards on 16 carries for 94 yards. I mean, William Powell is a tough running back to stop at best at times here, but then when we come to the receivers here, I'd say once again, both quarterbacks, I say, was able to really spread the ball around here. I mean, for the Stampeders, Eric Rogers had 6 catches for 64 yards. I mean, he always shows up for the Calgary Stampeders when he has played for us in the playoffs. Then Chris Matthews, that's the same Chris Matthews that if things would have played out differently in Super Bowl 49, I think he would have won the MVP for the Seattle Seahawks. He actually had 4 catches for 59 yards. He definitely made an impact, had a big catch up the middle, second and long there at the start of the game to set a tone there. And then Don Jackson, he actually had a big game on receiving, including that 1 touchdown. He had 4 catches for 39 yards, so it was an all-around nice game for Don Jackson. And then John Breskison, who's definitely starting to become one of the top Canadian receivers, go-to guys for the Stampeders. He had 35 catches for 35 yards. And then Lamar Durant, the top Canadian, he had 4 catches for 30 yards and a touchdown. So I guess that's probably the difference there, why he was able to get the top Canadian award. And then Julian Lynch, another guy that was drafted most recently, he had a catch for 26 yards. So that's the one thing with Bo, is that he was able to spread the ball well, once again, in this game, which definitely was key to fight off some Grey Cup demons. On the Ottawa side of the ball there, I mean, they have big play receivers, but they had pretty pedestrian numbers, because Calgary's defense was all over them, and they couldn't make an impact. R.J. Harris for the Ottawa RedBlacks had 4 catches for 66 yards. Brad Snopley, he's been reliable, but he definitely got stopped on that one play where they could have used him most. He had 4 catches for 61 yards, and then Greg Ellingson, I mean, if things would have played a little differently, you would have had different numbers. He had 4 catches for 58 yards and almost looked like he had a touchdown there that he couldn't quite squeeze at the end. And then Julian Fiore-Gudino, he only had that 1 catch for 55 yards and a touchdown that in the first half there. And then Deontay Spencer, he definitely had a rough game, both in returns and in receiving, because he only had 3 catches for 31 yards there. So great job on the defense to neutralizing the air attack by the Ottawa RedBlacks. I mean, you could say Trevor Harris had 280 yards, but no one on the receiving corps really stood out big time. And then Julian Fiore-Gudino, he's one of the depth receivers that happened to be wide open and ran in that 1 touchdown there in the second quarter there. And then, of course, I have to highlight the returns here, but Terry Williams had 5 punt returns for 112 yards, but one of them came in with a touchdown, and 97 yards came in that 1 play there, which definitely is going to go down as history as one of the most electrifying plays in Grey Cup history, and I was definitely there to witness it, and thank God it was done for my team here. So on the defensive side of the ball here, I mean, Alex Singleton, 8 tackles. I mean, I almost could argue that he could have gotten the top Canadian, but I don't make those decisions. And then Trey Roberson, Jamar Wall, Deontay Evans, each had an interception here. And then on the Ottawa side of the ball, I can highlight that Kyrie Bear. He also had 8 tackles there, and I'll recognize Jonathan Rose and Sherrod Baltimore. Each had an interception each, but both of those interceptions came in the first half, and Calgary defense was able to help Bo out there and minimize the damage there. So, so this is where I'm going to start reflecting over the whole season here. But that's the one fun thing about doing this series here about my Calgary Stampeders this month here is that I was looking back at the whole season, where my mood was at, starting from June up until now as Grey Cup champions here. But it wasn't until maybe June. June that everyone's still feeling each other out there. And to be honest with you, I didn't think Calgary. I still think we would have had a great team, but I felt this year we were actually going to take a little bit of a step back because we made I felt like we did a little bit of a youth movement here. Guys like Marco McDaniel wasn't re-signed, and we definitely traded away Charleston Hughes on defense because we had a lot of young guys on defense that I mentioned throughout the year. Singleton, Davis, Law, Johnson, Waters. Charleston Hughes was definitely a lot more expendable, and we were able to trade away. It just worked out that he went to Hamilton, got flipped to Saskatchewan to make things even more interesting, and then we had a lot of younger guys on the receiver there, and then we still had Bo, but the big question mark was running back, because Calgary decided to move on from Jerome Messon here, and it definitely turned out to be a great move that we moved on from Jerome Messon. He was here, had 2 1,000-yard receiving yards, but then he decided to go back to Saskatchewan here. But when he was in Saskatchewan, he wasn't as productive. But then I had to look this up, but apparently it's in the courts right now. But he got charged with voyeurism, and I had to look that up because the league was talking about. We were aware that he's been charged with this, and if any team attempts to sign him, because he got released right away, we won't honor his contract. I have to look it up. I was like, ooh, a peeping Tom. Because voyeurism is basically, you record, sexual encounter without their knowledge, and apparently, allegedly, this happened when he was a Stampeder, but it wasn't until earlier this year that somebody complained to the Calgary police and made that, distinction, and conclusion, it's in the courts now. Excuse me, but Calgary decided to move on from Jerome Messon before all this was known. And then the one guy that we were glad to sign last season, but he also got in trouble with the law, was Roy Finch. And, apparently he's retired and put his football career on hold. And the way things are right now, I'm not too sure if he's ever going to play again. But, I think he got in trouble before the season there. So we didn't know who was going to do returns. I knew Terry Williams was around, but then we brought in Don Jackson. He had a great season despite missing the core of it. But, things turned out well that, Don Jackson made a name for himself. We had Omar Morris, but we'll see how his injury situation worked out. But Terry Williams definitely fulfilled the role that Roy Finch definitely did the last couple of years, and of course made the big play in the Grey Cup there. But the way I felt that things were going to be different here was that when it came to July and August here, the way our defense was playing, I thought, this team has what it takes to get over the hump. And then when it came to Labor Day and we were 9-1 at that time, it got to the point, well, it's cup or bust now. We showed that once again we're the cream of the crop with this core group, guys. We need to win the cup or it's bust. And even then, September, they were looking good there, but then there was that funk in October there, and they didn't lose by too much, but it did look a little concerning there, and both Winnipeg and Saskatchewan were heating up. Edmonton surprisingly slipped, but BC was heating up there. That put Calgary on notice, and I think with all the receivers, that's the other thing too, all the receiver injuries. One tidbit I heard that this was the first time in history that quarterback threw for over 5,000 yards, didn't have a receiver that had over 1,000 yards. Well, how can a receiver get over 1,000 yards when we have receivers that have been hurt in and out of the lineup, and be able to come in and pick up the job and keep it going. Bakari Grant, Chris Matthews were definitely great during the season pickup to provide some relief. But guys like Markeith Ambles, where did he come from? And Richard Sinani made Anthony Parker available, expendable because they released him at the start of the year too. So that's another part where we said we went through a youth movement here. But I just felt that how Calgary responded in that last game of the year, and I felt if they overcome some adversity early in the Western Final, and Calgary seemed subdued all year this year, and especially Bo. I mean, some people, and even some people, fans ask me over the years that cheer for other teams and say, do you think Bo was a little arrogant? And I would say, yes, he is, but that's what made him who he is. That's what made him so competitive here this year. But Matt Duggan raised a nice point here on the TSN panel that, Bo Levi Mitchell, based on Matt Dunnigan's personal experience when he played in the CFL, that Bo took a little bit of a step back this year and let the whole team win it, because Bo definitely wanted the ball in 2016 and 2017 to win the Grey Cup, and both times that he had the ball there, he couldn't complete a pass in overtime there. He swung at the fences and failed, and then he had the ball again to at least maybe march the team down the field, to at least take our chances in overtime again last year in Ottawa, and we got into field goal range, but then Bo decided to go for the end zone. Unfortunately, threw the guy, Mark Michel, was double covered. It was thrown short, and Black got the interception, and that was it. So, Bo definitely took a step back this year, and he definitely still is a tough competitor here, but he definitely overcome some adversity there, and he definitely kept this team going. And this whole team, this whole season, felt like they had a different focus here this year. But now when it comes to the future of the team here, while there's definitely some big question marks here, Bo Levi Mitchell is actually, he's trying his luck with the NFL here, so we don't know if he could be back, or I think he's either going to be in the NFL, hopefully with a meaningful job, or he'll be back with the Stampeders, because he'll definitely know that he's set here in Calgary if he wants to, play in Calgary. I understand, wanting to try for the NFL, and it's definitely more lucrative to play in the NFL, but the one guy I look at that was in that same situation in the CFL is Ricky Ray, because Ricky Ray was a young quarterback who proven that he has a place for him in the CFL. He led the Edmonton Eskimos to the Grey Cup in 2003, and then he tried his luck in the NFL in 2004 and didn't work out, or I think he had a job, but he wasn't going to play, and then eventually he decided, I want to come back to Canada and play, knowing that I'm set here in Canada and maybe not make as much money, but everyone jokes about, you make more money being a third-string quarterback holding the clipboard here, but you're also expendable too. They can always find someone who's just a little better to do the same thing, or thinking they can count on him more. So I think Bo Levi Mitchell is definitely, he's earned the right to exercise his options, but let's hope he comes back. And then same with Singleton, because he definitely is looking at the NFL, and a couple guys that we know that likely won't back. Well, Chris Matthews actually got released so he can try the NFL, but the CFL route allowed him to be able to get exposed to the NFL again. And one receiver that I wouldn't be surprised that said that he's contemplating retiring is Eric Rogers, and it's just his knees. He's had trouble with his knees, and even when he has played, he's been effective, but he's missed a lot of time because of his knees there. And then the one guy that we could be losing, that it sounds like maybe he's going to be head coach of the BC Lions, is Mr. Claybrooks here. This is for you. We definitely love your personality and coaching our defense here, but we'll miss you if you become the head coach of the BC Lions here. Just wish you all the best, except when you're not playing Calgary, and keep your hat slanted there. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of question marks here, especially in free agency, and I might pot in the off season with some free agency talk videos. But the CBA for the CFL is up right now, so you'll see every team with a big long list of free agents here. But since 2008, since John Hufnagel took over, he's made decisions as general manager. He was coach, and then he stepped aside in 2016 to let Dave take over and be coach. But I trust John Hufnagel and his coaching staff to find a way to keep reloading if we need to, because this team has been competitive since 2008, and every year since 2008 you can legitimately say that this team is in the run for this guy right here. And we brought the cup here, and we're hosting the big game here next year. I think the only thing that will make this year's Grey Cup victory that much sweeter is if we keep it at home next year and win in Calgary in front of all the faithful in Calgary. But I can dream at this point right now. There's a lot of off season here to go here. But as I said, this is definitely an extra special episode of my Calgary Stampeders this month. I also plan to put a little production here, so after this video here, I'll throw in a couple videos here, and I'll try to put the whole roster in credit style. And I got one more legend card that I feel will be perfect to close out this video here for season 1 of my Calgary Stampeders this month. That were Grey Cup champions, and that was so much sweeter that we were able to finally beat those demons, whatever ailed the Stampeders the last couple years, and to do it in Edmonton of all places. Yes, Edmonton. It's not necessarily one of my favorite places to go to, but man, it feels damn good to go up to Edmonton and go to a game to eventually hope to watch the Calgary team come out on top. And this tops this. I don't know if anything can ever top my trip to Edmonton with this. I mean, it would have to be another Grey Cup where you got the Stampeders to win, or unless they change the playoff format in the NHL, you're never going to see the Calgary Flames win the Stanley Cup in Edmonton. But maybe have the Calgary Flames beat the Edmonton Oilers in the conference championship, Game 7 in overtime but that's not quite winning the championship. But I think that's the only thing that'll come closest to if I ever get to experience that as a sports fan in Edmonton here. But yeah, I'll say thanks for watching along to my Calgary Stampeders this month. I still plan on continuing on doing this if I do continue to be more active on YouTube here for season 2. I might change a few things here and there, but watch for any channel updates. And if you made it up to this point, and with my voice, because I'm still fighting the cold here, but this is definitely a much sweeter victory for me as a fan to enjoy. And as you get older, you gotta appreciate these as you come along, because Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans sober me up at Grey Cups, knowing that they're waiting to finally get a championship. And you know what, Blue Bomber Nation, I'll be cheering hard for your Bombers. I've never been to a Grey Cup when Winnipeg's in it, but I'll be cheering hard for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for the Grey Cup, if they're not playing my Stampeders, of course. But I'm gonna have to say the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I'm gonna have to say they're my second favorite team now, because they haven't done much in the playoffs to upset me with other Western teams. And for Labor Day Sunday, if I do any more trips to Regina, I need a team to cheer for, and I embrace wearing the black hat and can't cheer for Saskatchewan. And I say, going back to winning in Edmonton, there were definitely quite a bit of fans from Calgary that made the trip, and I'm going to say this as much red and as much Go Stamps go as you'll get in Edmonton there. But you know what? I say it was 60-40 Ottawa, anyone but Calgary. Then 40% was pure cheering for Calgary. And I said it got really dusty at the game here, and I was definitely proud to finally see my team bring it home here. So just in closing here, I'm going to do a little montage here at the end of this video once I get all my editing here. I meant to do this video a couple weeks ago, but I've been very busy with not only getting back from the Grey Cup, but then playing catch up, work responsibilities there. But you know, I've been fighting this cold here, and I don't know if that was that the price to pay to watch Calgary win the Grey Cup in Edmonton. I mean, a lot of people have been sick lately, and even some players were sick on the team there. But I mean, if this is the price to pay for watching Stampeders win the Grey Cup, I don't know if I want to know what price I need to pay if I ever get to watch the Flames win the Stanley Cup. But if you follow my Flames videos, they're looking up too. But you know, like I say, this was definitely much sweeter win for the Calgary Stampeders, and I couldn't be more proud of this group of guys. And if you're somehow watching, I mean, I want to thank each and every one of you for doing what you do. I realize that you put your bodies on the line and to give up some, you know, time with family, friends, personal freedom to do what you do. And you know, we appreciate everything you do, and same with all the coaches and everyone behind the scenes that produces the product for me to enjoy. And you know what, this is why I watch sports. It's my escape, and you know, it gives me something to be proud of. And being a native Calgarian, this is definitely the best way to show my love for Calgary and the Calgary Stampeders. And seeing that trophy here is beautiful. So you know, I just want to say thank you, and I'll see you at the next video if you follow my other content. And you know, maybe season 2, my Calgary Stampeders this month. Let's defend this guy, and let's keep this guy home. Grey Cup 107 in Calgary next year at this time. Do another, you know, Grey Cup champion video. Yeah, baby, we won. This is sweet, man. Thank you.